Ollie, welcome to You in Korea. As you can see, I am outside right now. I am right now at Toksugun Palace in the heart of Seoul. This is one of the 5 palaces in Seoul and probably one of the most unique ones as it mixes the architecture and the culture of Korean and Western culture. So why am I here today wearing this beautiful hanbok? Is because I'm going to take you on a tour around some of the places, some of the palaces in Seoul. One reason why Toksugun is probably one of the most unique palaces in Seoul is because it has a mixture of Korean and Western culture. It was actually used until the beginning of 20th century. That's why there are lots of buildings that kind of represent both worlds. Like for example, over here behind me, the building looks really old, right? It's called Sogodan. This building was used by the kings around 17th century. This is actually the only building in this whole palace that has 2-tier roof and it's not painted. That's why it looks even more unique and even more like the old Korean building. This Sogodang Hall was actually used by King Songjo during the Japanese invasion at the end of the 16th century and the beginning of the 17th century. And if we move to the other side, there is a beautiful garden and another building at the far corner that is called Chungmyeondan. It actually has a really tragic story. I remember I told you before about King Gojong, right? His daughter, he used this whole building and the garden in front of it as a playground for his young daughter. But unfortunately, during the Japanese invasion, she was abducted and sent to Japan when she was just 1 year old, where at the age of 20, she was forcefully married to a Japanese man, abused by him, later divorced him and came back to Korea. But unfortunately and very tragically, she ended up her days in the mental institution. So is this all? Of course not. You can find more of our trip to Toksugun at Shahir K-pop channel. If you are interested, you can check their channel and see our video where we traveled around Toksugun and explained more about this beautiful palace, which is one of the most unique 5 palaces in Seoul. And as I mentioned, there are more palaces in Seoul, and one of the most popular among tourists, of course, is Toksugun. But about this, I will tell you later. So please follow me to the studio. Okay guys, so now I'm back in my studio. The place you have just seen on the video was Toksugun Palace, one of the oldest palaces in Seoul. It is mainly known as the residence of King Gojong, the 26th king of Joseon dynasty at the end of Joseon era. The palace was the main stage for political turmoil for about 10 years in the last years of King Gojong's reign. This was a very turbulent period with lots of conflicts going around among various countries for the power in the region. King Gojong returned from the refuge with Russian legation and moved to this palace in 1897. He expanded it, adding many new buildings, including Chunghwajeon Hall and lots of others. It is remarkable with several Western-style buildings were also built within Toksugun Palace. And it's also where the K-drama Goblin that you guys love so much was filmed. I have been to Toksugun Palace many times while living in Korea. It is a beautiful place in all 4 seasons. Just look at those pictures. Of course, it goes without saying that Toksugun is not the only palace in Seoul. Actually, the place that foreigners want to visit the most popular attraction among the palaces is Gyeongbokgun Palace. That's right, it's exactly the place where BTS performed wearing hanboks. So today, I'm going to tell you more about it. Gyeongbokgun Palace was built in 1395, the early Joseon dynasty, and used as a royal palace. To put it simply, the royal palace is the most important place where the king resided and took care of his affairs. There are, of course, many beautiful places around Gyeongbokgung Palace that are worth mentioning, but due to the time limits, I'm just going to mention a few that are exceptionally must-see. Well, the first one is, of course, Gwanghwamun Gate. If you watched one of our older videos of me wearing a hanbok in Seoul, the entrance to the video was filmed exactly in front of Gwanghwamun Gate. Gwanghwamun Gate is the main gate to Gyeongbokgung Palace and the largest gate in the center. It was only accessible to the king, and the left and right gates were for the servants to enter and exit. East and west pavilions rise at the eastern and western ends of the wall connected to Gwanghwamun Gate, respectively, making it the only place in Joseon Dynasty to have the shape of a palace. It is a very beautiful gate, so you must visit it when you come to Seoul. This gorgeous gate has in fact a very, very sad history. It is said that it used to stand firmly and represent the dignity of the royal family and the sovereignty of Joseon Dynasty until it came under the Japanese rule. Japan had planned to demolish the gate, which was blocking the front, to make room for the new Japanese governor building. So brutal! In the end, Gwanghwamun, which was on the verge of dismantling, was moved to the north side of Gwonjumun, the current main gate of the National Folk Museum, and was able to maintain its legacy. And it wasn't until 1968, a long time later, that Gwanghwamun Gate was finally returned to its original location. Speaking of which, think about it. The Japanese built their government building in the palace of a foreign country. Rude, isn't it? Anyway, we will have time later to talk about the Japanese invasion and all that come with it. But there was another thing that suddenly disappeared from the palace while the Japanese were ravaging palaces around Seoul. It is Haechi sculpture. The statues of Haete or Haechi-sang were sitting on either side of Gwanghwamun Gate facing the south. Gwanghwamun Gate was restored after the liberation, and the sculptures were retrieved from a place they had been left unattended and were able to sit where they are now. It is an imaginary animal that is said to have magical talent for finding criminals. The reason why the Haechi statue was placed in front of the palace is to make the officials who enter and exit the palace wary, and to symbolize the judicial institution and determine the right and wrong. Take a picture with Haechi in Gwanghwamun when you're there. That's a must. A must! The next place that is worth visiting in the palace is called Gyeongjeong. It's actually a hall where king used to have important meetings. This is a place that played a very important part in discussing various state affairs between the king and his officials. Additionally, during the Joseon Dynasty, royal coronation ceremonies and other ceremonies were held there. It was in front of this Gyeongjeong where BTS performed. Gyeongjeong is a symbolic place of the Joseon Dynasty. Therefore, it is a place where you can get a glimpse of the culture of that time, its architectural techniques and aesthetics. It is surrounded by a short corridor from east to west and a long corridor from north to south. The interior is majestic, with high ceilings and thick columns supporting the height. Would you like to feel the breath of Joseon Dynasty there? Well, now I will introduce the most beautiful place in the palace. Gyeongbokgung Palace itself is very beautiful and elegant, but this place is just so amazing. It's called Gyeonghwaeru Pavilion. It is the most beautiful place in all 4 seasons at Gyeongbokgung Palace. It is a place where you can feel the elegance and the aesthetics of the pavilion, as well as enjoy breathtaking view of the Yangpaegak Mountain from the north, and you can almost hug the beautiful Ingwan Mountain located in the west. It is said that the meaning of Gyeonghwae is that the king and his subjects meet each other through great virtue. Gyeonghwaeru Pavilion was used for hosting envoys or banquets from public officials, and was also used for various purposes such as exams and archery events. Just looking at the pictures of it, isn't it really cool? This is actually one of the places that foreigners want to visit the most when they come to Korea. So today we looked at Gyeongbokgung Palace and Doksugun Palace. I hope you enjoyed it. But of course, as I told you, there are more palaces in Seoul. Gyeongbokgung Palace, Doksugun Palace, Dangyonggun Palace, Jangdokgun Palace, and Gyeonghaegun Palace. I only looked at 2 of them today, but I'm sure the day will come when we will be able to visit the rest of them together. As I said before, many places in Joseon have been ravaged by the Japanese, so as much as you love Korea, I hope you will always pay attention to the Korean history as much as you love Korea. History should never be distorted or forgotten. Okay guys, so that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, shout out to everyone who joined from Shahi to K-pop and Bashar and Joe. Hope you guys are doing fine. Please, if you like watching our videos, subscribe to our channel, leave thumbs up and your comments and feedback in the comment section. I will be happy to read all of your feedbacks. And until next video, please all be safe. We'll be back soon. 안녕!